In the quiet hours of the night, when the world sleeps and the stars keep watch, there is a house being built, not with bricks, not with hands, but with obedience, with oil, with fire, with faith. This is the architecture of readiness. So dress your soul, light your lamp. The master is near. Hey, be ready, be ready. Keep your lamp burning bright. Be ready, be ready. He's coming like a thief in the night. Oh, my soul, don't sleep, don't you slumber. Keep the fire till the master returns. From the one who's given much, much more will be required. So I'll be ready when he comes. Dress your heart for service, tie your robe with truth. Oil in your vessel, let the spirit move. Don't wait for the morning, don't wait for the sun. The master may arrive before the night is done. Some are sleeping, some losing the way, some hearts growing cold while they delay. But I will watch, I will pray, I will keep my lamp burning every day. If he comes in the midnight hour, will he find me standing in power? If he knocks on my door suddenly, will my fire still be burning? Be ready, be ready. Keep your lamp burning bright. Be ready, be ready. He's coming like a thief in the night. Oh, my soul, don't sleep, don't you slumber. Keep the fire till the master returns. From the one who's given much, much more will be required. So I'll be ready when he comes. Who is the faithful, the wise servant, feeding the house at the proper time? Not drunk on power, not lost in pleasure, but walking in purpose divine. He said, I gave you much, did you multiply?
So we're going to start today by asking you to play this really quick high-stakes game.
Oh, okay. I'm listening.
Right. So wherever you are listening to this right now, I want you to imagine a 30-second fire drill.
Wow, just 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly half a minute to leave the room you're currently sitting in. And you are leaving it forever.
That completely changes the math of a normal morning.
It really does. Because here are the rules,
Yeah.
right? You can only take what is currently in your hands, or like what is physically strapped to your body.
Oh, man. So no running back to the bedroom for a charger?
Nope. No opening the hall closet for a go bag. You can't even grab your keys if they're, across the room.
That's brutal.
Time is up. Look at yourself. What do you actually have on you?
I mean, it just strips away every illusion we carry about being prepared. Like, if I run that simulation on myself right now, I have a pen, my glasses, and whatever happens to be in my pockets.
Right. It's a sobering realization, isn't it? Just how vulnerable we are when the timeline suddenly collapses like that.
It really is.
Well, that exact feeling, that sudden stripped-down realization of what actually matters, that is exactly how the Icom Classroom teaching ministry kicked off their virtual community quiet time.
Oh, right. On Thursday, March 19th, 2026.
Yes. And the mission for today's deep dive is to unpack this community's really profound exploration of Luke chapter 12, verses 35 through 59.
Which is just a packed section of scripture.
It's incredibly dense. We're looking at this radical piece of teaching from Jesus that completely reorients our sense of time and, our daily responsibilities.
Yeah, it changes what it actually means to be spiritually awake.
Exactly. And to get us started, I want to just drop the core theme right here. We're exploring what it means to stay dressed for action.
And keep your lamps burning.
Right. And that imagery alone carries so much weight.
It really does. Because this text isn't just, a list of good behavior.
Right, it's not a checklist.
Exactly. Jesus is demanding an ontological shift. He's talking about changing your entire state of being while you navigate the mundane reality of waiting.
But I want to unpack the tension here for a second, because when you and I think of a fire drill today, it's driven by anxiety, right?
Oh, absolutely. Pure adrenaline and panic.
Right. We are preparing to survive a disaster. The building is burning. We have to escape. But what struck me going through these sources is that Jesus is using this intense language, this adrenaline-pumping language of readiness, not for a disaster.
Right.
He's using it for a completely unexpected celebration.
And that distinction, that changes everything about the posture we are supposed to take.
Yeah, it really does.
Because to really understand what this permanent state of readiness looks like, we have to dig into the fashion and the social architecture of the first century Greco-Roman world.
Okay, lay it on us.
So, the Greek word used in the text is periezōsmenai, which translates literally to having been girded.
Having been girded, which, I mean, let's be honest, sounds a bit archaic.
It does, yeah.
It sounds like something a blacksmith does, right? Not really a spiritual discipline for a Tuesday afternoon.
That's a fair point. So let's visualize it. In the ancient Middle East, your everyday wardrobe consisted of these long, flowing tunics and robes.
Right. Very comfortable for the heat.
Super comfortable. But they were a massive liability for movement. If you needed to run or, do hard physical labor.
You couldn't have all that fabric dragging in the dirt.
Exactly. You had to physically pull up that long material and tuck it securely into your leather belt. You had to gird it.
So when Jesus commands his followers to stay dressed for action,
he literally means having a tucked-in robe. And absolutely no untucked robes.
Because an untucked robe means you are loose, you're encumbered.
Yeah, you are practically guaranteed to trip over your own comfort the second you need to move quickly.
You lose all your agility.
Exactly. But Jesus takes this practical wardrobe advice and he uses it to set up what scholars call the great reversal.
Oh, this is the part of the text that absolutely shatters the universe for the original audience.
It's wild. He tells a story about servants waiting through the dark hours of the night for their master to return from a wedding banquet.
Right.
And he says that if the master finds those servants alert with their robes tucked in, the master will dress himself to serve them.
He puts on the apron?
He will have them recline at the table and he will come and wait on them.
I mean, during the community discussion, one of the members, Stephanie, pointed out how genuinely insane and scandalous this one sounds.
Stephanie hits the nail on the head there. Insane is the perfect word.
Right. Because you have to view this through the lens of a first century Greco-Roman society.
Right. A culture built entirely on these two unforgiving axes, wealth status and honor shame.
And in that societal pyramid, slaves were not employees?
No, they were property. They existed solely to absorb the labor and preserve the honor of the elite.
So imagine, a wealthy master coming home from this massive opulent party. He walks in, sees his staff awake, and says, "Hey, sit down, let me wash your feet, let me bring you a plate."
It breaks every rule of etiquette. It's a complete subversion of the Roman social order.
It threatens the entire hierarchy.
Think about the original audience of the Gospel of Luke. The author explicitly addresses the book to most excellent Theophilus.
Right, a man of high status.
Exactly. Very likely a Roman official who operates entirely within that honor-shame system.
So for him to read a document claiming that the ultimate authority in the universe actually serves its subordinates.
It's a heart-reorienting shock. It's the ultimate survival guide for staying grounded in a toxic culture.
Jesus is teaching the 12 apostles that power in his kingdom flows downward.
And the amazing part is the apostles beheld the glory of Jesus doing this live. They watched him wash their feet.
Yeah, and then they took this radical subversion straight into the book of Acts, living it out and completely upending first century society.
Absolutely. And, that physical act of having your robe tucked in, it carries this whole second layer of meaning.
Oh, right. Because it isn't just about first century agility.
No, for a Jewish audience, it has a deep ancestral resonance. It echoes all the way back to the foundational trauma and triumph of their people.
We are talking about the Exodus.
We are. In the community quiet time, Dolores highlighted this brilliant connection to Exodus chapter 12, verse 11.
The Passover mandate.
Yes. The Israelites are enslaved in Egypt under brutal conditions, and God tells them exactly how to eat the final Passover meal before their liberation.
They are commanded to eat it in a state of physical haste. Right?
Sandals on their feet, staff in their hand, and their robes tucked into their belts.
So they were eating with one foot out the door. They had to be ready for imminent deliverance the moment the signal was given.
Coiled like springs.
Yeah.
But notice how Jesus deliberately shifts this ancestral imagery.
Okay, how so?
Well, in Exodus, the Israelites were fleeing an earthly pharaoh. They were running away from abuse.
Right.
In Luke, Jesus is calling them to a permanent state of readiness for a heavenly king. It's no longer about escaping a threat. It's about waiting with fierce expectation for a promise.
Wow. And this thread weaves its way through the rest of the New Testament, too.
It does.
Another community member, Cabra, connected this imagery to Ephesians 6.14, where Paul talks about fastening the belt of truth around your waist for spiritual warfare.
Yes.
And then there's 1 Peter 1.13, which takes the physical metaphor and makes it entirely internal, girding the loins of your mind.
Moving from physical clothing to mental sobriety.
But I actually need to push back on this a little bit, or at least wrestle with the mechanics of it.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the original Exodus posture was all about physical movement like running away from slavery, how does girding our minds help us stand perfectly still and just wait?
That's a great question.
Because waiting requires a completely different type of endurance than running, doesn't it?
That is a phenomenal distinction to make. Honestly, waiting is often much harder than running.
Right.
To be girded today, especially when you're forced to stand still and wait, is about eliminating the loose ends that trip us up in the spiritual fray.
The distraction.
Exactly. When you have to wait, the human mind naturally wanders. Doubt creeps in. The distractions, the anxieties, the sheer noise of the surrounding culture, they start to entangle you like a loose garment.
So an untucked mind is a vulnerable mind. It's catching on every passing headline, every stressor, every comparison.
That is exactly it. Reclaiming our Exodus posture in a deeply distracted century means pulling up those loose ends.
Tying off the anxieties.
Yes, so that even while you are standing still, you remain spiritually agile. You aren't tripping over your own restless thoughts.
Which flows perfectly into the second half of Jesus' command. First, keep your robes tucked in. Second, keep your lamps burning.
And this is where the endurance of standing still really gets tested.
Because tending a lamp in the ancient world was highly active work, wasn't it?
Oh, incredibly active. When we hear keep your lamps burning today, we think of flipping a switch or leaving a porch light on while we sleep.
We assume automation.
But the physics of a first-century clay oil lamp are entirely different.
There is no set it and forget it.
None whatsoever. These were small clay containers holding olive oil. Keeping a flame alive through the darkest hours of the night required constant, tiny, deliberate actions.
Like what?
You had to physically check the oil reservoir to ensure it wasn't running dry. You had to trim the burnt edges of the wick so it wouldn't smoke and suffocate the flame. You had to use your own body to shield the fragile light from sudden gusts of wind.
It requires relentless attention.
Relentless.
And that kind of maintenance over a long period of time leads to a psychological phenomenon that one of the community members, Coonley, described perfectly.
Oh, yes. The waiting fatigue.
Waiting fatigue. It just captures the human condition so well.
It really does. What was the story again?
Coonley shared this incredibly relatable story from his childhood. When he was just 10 years old, his mom had to travel out of town to care for her mother. So Coonley was essentially saddled with managing the family business in her absence.
At 10 years old.
Right. And he said he started out with absolute diligence. He kept perfect accounts. He was totally locked in. Everyone praised him for his maturity.
But
as the days dragged on and his mom didn't return on the timeline he expected, the reality of the wait began to erode his discipline.
the initial adrenaline of responsibility wears off and the baseline character is tested.
Exactly. And that's when the distraction hit. A friend of his, who has zero responsibilities, came around showing off a cool, brand-new Swiss wristwatch.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Coonley, suffering from waiting fatigue and feeling the weight of managing things while others played, dipped into the family business funds to buy himself a Swiss watch.
Wow.
And of course, his mom returned on a day he completely didn't expect, and he found himself scrambling to hide his failure.
It perfectly illustrates the subtle, corrupting danger of delay.
It really does.
And the community chat was incredibly aligned on this observation. Members like Adebayo and Bayo echoed that the delay of Christ's return is actually a deliberate test of our secret loyalty.
The delay isn't a glitch in the master plan. It's a feature.
It reveals what we actually believe, because what Kunli's story highlights is that delay is never permission to sin or to fall into self-indulgent apathy.
Right.
When the master is perceived as far away, the servant's true character is unmasked. Do you maintain the vigilance of trimming the wick, Or do you dip into the funds to buy a watch because you feel you've earned a break?
It makes me think of maintaining a streak on a language learning app.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Because if you actually want to learn a new language, it is never about doing one massive 10-hour cram session on a Sunday afternoon and then ignoring it for a month.
Right, that doesn't work.
It's the daily, persistent, often boring maintenance. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Checking the oil, trimming the wick, protecting your inner fire against the winds of burnout and waiting fatigue.
Maintenance is the unglamorous side of persistence, but if we pull back and look at the whole house, we realize that staring at your own lamp all night isn't the entire job.
True.
Jesus shifts the focus from our personal readiness to our social responsibility.
Yes, the scope widens. We go from what we wear and how they tend our own light to how we treat the people standing in the dark with us.
Jesus introduces the character of the wise manager. The master puts this specific servant in charge of the household with the mandate to give the other servants their portion of food at the proper time.
Okay.
What Jesus is doing here is offering a radical, kingdom-centric definition of leadership and authority. In this kingdom, power is a pantry.
Power is a pantry. I want to sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
Because it completely upends how we view influence.
It means authority is meant to nourish those we lead or live with. It is not a resource to be hoarded.
Right.
In the parable, Jesus contrasts the wise manager with an abusive servant. The abusive servant assumes the master is delayed, so he starts beating the other servants and hoarding the food and drink for himself.
He uses his position of power to consume rather than to feed.
Exactly.
And what's fascinating here is a realization from a community member named Io. Io pointed out that we tend to read the word manager and immediately exempt ourselves.
We think a manager is a high-level leader.
Right, a CEO, a politician, a senior pastor. But Io realized that every single disciple is a manager. You, listening right now, you are a manager of love, of influence, and of truth for someone else in your life.
Everyone has a household. It might be your actual family, your team at work, or your circle of friends. You have been given a pantry of influence.
And the question the text asks is, are you unlocking that pantry to feed them at the proper time, or are you keeping it locked for your own security?
Another member, Balaji, gave this brilliant analogy for this.
Oh, the AOC.
Yes. He described this mandate to feed the household as Jesus giving us an AOC, an area of concentration.
Think about a loving professor prepping their students before a massive final exam.
Right. A bad professor just says, read the whole textbook and good luck.
But a good professor gives you an area of concentration. They tell you exactly what concepts to focus on. Jesus is giving us the answer key. Focus on feeding the household.
It is an act of profound grace to tell the servants exactly what the test will measure.
It really is.
But we cannot talk about grace without grappling with the heavier weight of Jesus's mission in the very next breath.
Yeah, the tone shifts dramatically here.
Because right after establishing this area of concentration, Jesus makes a sharp, almost jarring turn in the text. He says, he came to cast fire on the earth.
I have to admit, this is where I get theological whiplash.
I don't blame you.
I mean, a minute ago, the master is tying on an apron to serve us a meal, and now Jesus is saying, I came to cast fire on the earth, and would that it were already kindled. How do we reconcile the servant master with the consuming fire?
It forces us to recognize that the arrival of truth is not a peaceful, passive event. Jesus is illustrating the total disruption that his kingdom brings.
Truth divides.
By its very nature, it causes unavoidable division. He says this fire will divide households 3 against 2, 2 against 3, father against son, mother against daughter.
Readiness isn't just about surviving the dark night. It's about being prepared for the consuming heat of absolute truth.
It burns away everything that isn't genuine. And Jesus follows this up by calling out the profound hypocrisy of the crowds around him.
Interpreting the time.
Yes, he points out that they are brilliant at interpreting the weather. They can look at a cloud rising in the west and know a rainstorm is coming. They feel the south wind blowing and know it's going to be a scorching day.
They've mastered their physical environment.
But they lack the spiritual discernment to interpret the times they are actually living in. It is a devastating critique of misplaced intelligence.
You can be highly educated, highly observant, and incredibly successful in the physical world,
while remaining completely blind to the spiritual reality unfolding right in front of you.
Which brings us to the final, most sobering verses of this passage. Community member Anthony focused heavily on verses 57 through 59, which detail the final settlement.
Reconciling before the judge.
Right. Jesus paints this vivid, urgent picture. You are currently walking on the road with your accuser toward the magistrate. And the time to settle your debts, the time to reconcile and make things right, is now while you are still on the way.
Because the journey is brief. Reconciliation and right living cannot be deferred to some vague future date.
The courtroom is approaching rapidly.
And once you are dragged before the judge, you will be thrown into prison until you pay the last cent.
But I struggle with the intensity of the punishment described here. I mean, earlier in the passage, Jesus talks about unfaithful servants being cut into and assigned a place with the unfaithful.
It's intense imagery.
If this master is so loving, why is the language of judgment so severe?
Because the stakes of the kingdom are absolute, and knowledge changes your culpability. Jesus is explaining a core principle. To whom much is given, much is required.
Okay.
Knowledge of the master's will is meant to be a protection. It's that area of concentration Balaji mentioned. But if you hold that knowledge and actively ignore it, it transforms from a protection into a liability.
So the servant who knew the will of the master and actively rebelled receives a harsher judgment than the one who acted in ignorance.
Precisely. Grace is freely given, yes, but the stewardship of that grace is fiercely demanded.
It is a heavy reality. It strips away any excuse we might have for passive living. So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now?
How do we apply it?
Yeah, how do you take a first-century parable about oil lamps and tucked-in robes and apply it to your actual life as a 21st century apprentice of Christ?
Well, the community had a very practical takeaway for this. They identified exactly what an untucked robe looks like in the modern world.
Oh, I love this part.
It is mental and digital clutter.
It really is. Staying dressed for action today means actively guarding your attention. It means staying away from the toxic wind of hyper bad news that constantly tells you the sky is falling.
Yes, resisting that urge.
It means resisting the mindless scrolling on social media that numbs your brain. It means starving that shallow need for the validation of likes on a post.
Because those digital habits are the exact winds that blow out our spiritual flame, they drain the oil right out of our lamps.
We simply cannot let the master return and find us in our spiritual pajamas.
No, we cannot be found relaxed, checked out, scrolling our lives away, entirely distracted from the reality of the kingdom.
So I want to ask you directly, thinking about your own life, are you living with the daily burning expectation that God is going to show up in your ordinary Tuesday morning moments? Or have you allowed the fog of your own busyness, the relentless noise of your phone, and the slow creep of waiting fatigue to dim your lamp?
That's the question we all have to answer. And I would leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Let's hear it.
We established earlier that power is a pantry, and our readiness is measured by how well we feed our household while the master is away. So look around at the people in your life right now, your family, your coworkers, your neighbors.
Your area of concentration.
Exactly. Are they starving for love and truth while you hold the keys to the pantry, entirely distracted by the wait?
Wow, that is a question that sticks in your chest. Just like that 30-second fire drill we started with. You don't have time to pack a bag. You only have what is in your hands and what is in your heart right now. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the sources. Keep your robes tucked and keep your lamps blazing.
Did you multiply? I gave you a lamp, did you keep it alive? I gave you a call, and did you stand or high? Were you building my kingdom or building your pride? Life is a vapor, we are just stewards, he is the maker. Some will say, master delayed, then fall away, hearts betrayed. But I don't want to be asleep, I don't want promises I couldn't keep. I don't want to hear you knew but you never prepared. I want to be found faithful when he appears. From everyone who has been given much, much will be required. From everyone who has been entrusted with much, a priest of old. Stand at the door like a servant who loves his master. For blessed is the one whom the master finds ready. This is the architecture of readiness.